The courtroom felt colder than winter stone, the kind of cold that crept into bones and stayed there long after the doors closed. Everyone noticed how the ex-wife sat absolutely still, hands folded, eyes lowered, saying nothing while her past was peeled open in front of strangers. She had been quiet through accusations, through murmurs, through the shifting of papers and judgmental glances. And then, just when the verdict seemed inevitable, the judge asked one unexpected question that cracked the silence wide open and changed everything. Before we go deeper into this story, take a moment to pause. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet strength of people who endure more than they ever show, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness Diaries. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. Her name was Clara Hayes, though in court she was known only as the ex-wife. No adjectives followed her name in the official documents, no acknowledgement of the years she had spent holding a family together with patience and sacrifice. She wore a simple gray dress that had been carefully pressed the night before, even though she had barely slept. Her hair was pulled back neatly, not to look impressive, but to avoid drawing attention. She had learned long ago that attention often came with pain. Around her, people whispered theories about why she had stayed silent through the proceedings, why she hadn't defended herself when her former husband's lawyer painted her as cold, distant, and financially manipulative. But Clara knew something the room did not. She knew that truth did not always need volume to survive. The case itself was ugly in its simplicity. A divorce finalized 2 years earlier had reopened like a wound that never healed. Her ex-husband, Daniel Hayes, had fallen hard after the separation. His business collapsed, debt swallowed him whole, and bitterness became his closest companion. He claimed Clara had ruined him, that her demands during the divorce had stripped him of dignity and resources. He sat across the room now, shoulders hunched, eyes darting with restless resentment, clinging to the belief that this court would finally validate his suffering. Clara had not looked at him once since the hearing began, not out of hatred, but out of exhaustion. What no one in that courtroom seemed to remember was who Clara had been before she became the quiet woman on the wooden bench. She had once laughed loudly, dreamed boldly, and believed deeply in building something lasting. She had worked 2 jobs while Daniel built his company, quietly paying bills, skipping meals, and postponing her own ambitions. When success came, it came unevenly, lifting him high while she remained invisible. And when failure followed, it crushed them both, though only one of them learned how to carry it without blame. Throughout the hearing, Clara listened as her life was reduced to transactions and timelines. Numbers were thrown into the air like weapons, each one meant to wound. She was accused of greed for accepting a settlement that had barely covered the mortgage and medical bills from years of stress-induced illness. She was portrayed as heartless for walking away, even though walking away had been the last act of self-preservation she could manage. Still, she remained silent, breathing slowly, reminding herself that survival did not require justification. The judge watched her carefully. Years on the bench had taught him that silence often carried more weight than protest. He noticed how Clara flinched slightly when certain details were twisted, how her hands tightened when her character was questioned. Yet she never interrupted, never objected, never asked to speak. It was as if she had already said everything she needed to say in a language only she understood. The courtroom assumed her quiet meant guilt or indifference. The judge suspected otherwise. As the proceedings neared their end, tension thickened the air. Daniel's lawyer rested his case with confidence, clearly expecting a ruling in their favor. Clara's attorney had presented facts, but even he seemed resigned to the imbalance of sympathy in the room. Then, just before adjourning, the judge leaned forward and asked Clara a single question that no one expected. He did not ask about money, or dates, or contracts. He asked about something far more human, something no document could capture. He asked her what she had given up during the marriage that never appeared in the records. For the first time, Clara lifted her head. The room stilled, sensing a shift. She did not rush to answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady, but heavy with years of unspoken truth. She did not accuse or defend. She simply described a life lived in quiet service. She spoke of postponed dreams, of nights spent worrying instead of sleeping, of choosing stability over passion again and again. She spoke of loving someone enough to disappear behind their needs, and of realizing too late that love should not require erasure. Her words did not seek pity. They sought understanding. She explained that she had stayed silent not because she had nothing to say, but because she had already survived the hardest parts alone. She had learned that sometimes dignity meant letting others believe what they needed to believe. The courtroom listened, not because she demanded attention, but because her honesty demanded respect. Even Daniel seemed to shrink in his seat, confronted not by accusation, but by reflection. The judge thanked her and leaned back, absorbing the weight of her testimony. In that moment, the case transformed from a dispute over assets into a reckoning of sacrifice. The ruling that followed acknowledged not just financial fairness, but emotional truth. Clara was not ordered to give back what she had rightfully received. Instead, the court recognized the unseen labor, the years of support that had never been invoiced. The decision did not punish Daniel, but it no longer allowed him to blame Clara for his fall. As people filed out of the courtroom, something intangible lingered. Clara walked out slowly, her steps lighter than when she had entered. She did not feel victorious. She felt released. Outside, sunlight spilled across the courthouse steps, warming her face as if the world itself were offering quiet approval. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine a future not defined by endurance, but by choice. In the weeks that followed, Clara began rebuilding in small, deliberate ways. She enrolled in classes she had once dreamed about, took walks without checking the time, and learned to sit with her own thoughts without fear. She did not erase her past or resent it. She honored it as proof of her resilience. Daniel, too, began to change, though his path was slower and steeper. The court's decision forced him to confront his own responsibility, a process that hurt, but ultimately healed. This story is not about winning in court. It is about the quiet power of truth spoken at the right moment. It is about the strength it takes to remain silent when shouting would be easier, and the courage to speak when silence no longer serves. Clara did not walk into that courtroom seeking redemption. She walked in carrying her life, whole and unbroken, even if others could not yet see it. If this story has touched your heart, if it reminded you of sacrifices made in silence or strength found in unexpected moments, please take a second to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to Kindness Diaries. Your engagement helps these stories reach more hearts and reminds us that compassion still matters. Before we reach the end, we have a special request for you. Please comment below and tell us what part of this story resonated with you the most, or share your own experience of quiet strength or second chances. Your words might inspire someone else who is struggling in silence. Clara never became famous. Her story was not written in headlines or legal journals. But in that courtroom, on that ordinary day, she reclaimed something priceless. She reclaimed her voice, not as a weapon, but as a bridge between misunderstanding and truth. And sometimes, that is enough to change everything.